Hey, Alex and Caleb here from Mac Football Forever. Just really quickly before we begin, we talk about it at the very end of the show, but I kind of want to let you guys know from the start. We do know that the season is over. That means
For the most part.
there's not gonna be any football games, Caleb. Like starting in 3 weeks, no more football games.
So
I don't know how true that is, but
we got to
if we're
fill
not
some
gonna have
time.
football, if we're not gonna have the football, what are we gonna do?
So if talking this over, everybody loves, they're all conference teams, they're player, offensive, defensive player of the year type stuff. But what you're going to have to look forward to from us are some special accolades, some superlatives. Think class of yearbook, stupid stuff from your school that people would like to forget. All kinds of lovely stuff. Corny superlatives, play of the year, play, just performance of the year, and stuff that's a little bit more fun than just who had the best game. So be on the lookout for that. And Alex and I are going to bring a really fun episode your way in an award show fashion. So look forward to that.
And we're also going to have some team overviews, and we're just gonna kick it this off season. We're gonna kick it. We're gonna keep up on the news and all that, but we're gonna kick it. It's gonna be fun. So do stick around for that. Also, stick around for the rest of this episode. That's a good place to start.
Please do.
Welcome to Mac Football Forever. I'm Alex Alvarado. That is Caleb Carter. Caleb, the Mac West is won. The Mac West is won, and it was worth the wait.
I mean, if you're a Western fan, hello, my face. If you're a Western fan, you're sitting here going, I wish I was never born. Why do these things happen to me? Some overreaction, fire Tim Lester and the whole staff, burn the university to the ground.
Hey, now, come on. You're basing that off like the 5 that you know.
Which is my favorite fan base that loses their minds now. But yeah, it's unconventional, weird game, weird, super duper weird finish, and a lot to talk about from that one too.
Hell of a ride to be a part of. Sorry for the really bad pun, but I'm really talking about Ball State here, so it's not a pun at all. It's been a really fun ride to watch, the West race as a whole, and for Ball State to just like build up to this moment and to, more or less prove a lot of people like me wrong. I'm looking at the preseason predictions here. In the West, Ball State had one coach, probably its own coach, pick them. 4 people in the media picked them to win the West, and 2 of those media members, one of them we had on this show actually, picked them to win it all. And they both might look like the smartest people in all of the media sphere. So this is a team that was not, picked by people that know the MAC very well. They were not picked to finish as highly as they are, and for them to, prove everyone wrong, to make names out of themselves for guys that were just depth pieces before, for them to be, amazing guys that we have to talk about every week, for them to put it all together, for them to stay as healthy as they can. Like, shouts out to the entire West that was able to put together an entire 6-game season for everybody. That's kind of cool to see. This is a season where anything could have gone crazy, and we kind of figured, if Ball State's going to win it, then like something dirty must have happened. No, Ball State went out and won all the games, and they deserved it. They went and they played the toughest game at the very end, and they showed up for it. So hats off to them. This has been a fantastic season for them.
We can look back at the media poll picks, coaches poll picks, our own picks. I believe I had I had Ball State in 3rd or 4th. I want to say 4th. But also, from the very beginning, we kind of had this dynamic about Ball State where it's like we all know they're capable of beating anybody, but we don't expect them to finish strong, because that's been what we've seen. It's how it's manifested the last few years. So see that narrative flipped and see it done in late comeback fashion. Really cool moment for that program, and makes for a pretty enticing MAC championship game.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the game in a little bit, but one of the things that I had knocked against them was that, we'd seen this movie before. I'd seen a Ball State team led by Mike New kind of implode down the stretch, and I kind of figured, now that we're at the end of the 6-game schedule, we might start to see them implode a little bit, and they hadn't. In fact, it was the other team that gave up a large lead in the 4th quarter.
Props to Ball State continuing to hammer out those close wins, close win against Toledo to get to this point, to be in this position. And, yeah, I mean, all MAC West teams got their games in this year. Even I saw from someone with NIU today say that they had no positive tests during the season for any players, which is ridiculous to even think about. But I'm sure there will be all kinds of things this offseason. We'll continue to see about how the costs functioned and what the makeup of some of these positive tests were, because some schools are just releasing this information for the first time still.
Yeah. I mean, like we have side banter for that, but one, hopefully that's not BS. Two, hopefully those players stay healthy.
Yeah.
Even though that football season is over, please don't go crazy, man. Like this is not the time to relax and be like, all right, now I can see everybody. No, you can't. No parties. No parties. Doesn't matter.
No parties.
No parties.
No one. Not talking about anybody in particular here. Just no parties.
We still had 4 games on Saturday and today is Saturday night, by the way. But we still had 4 games today that we were able to watch. Full disclaimer, we really only watched one. Only one. Only one was worth it because none of them else had serious stakes. For all the talk about, are they going to go to a bowl game? Or are they going to go? Nobody wants to go to a bowl game, man. Nobody wants to. Like, maybe Western's the only one that gets to after this, but I digress. The 4 games, Buffalo defended its home den against Akron 56-7. Toledo beat Central 24-23. EMU beat NIU 41-33. NIU's first loss of the season probably ever. I don't know. And Ball State held on and came back late to beat Western Michigan 30-27. Jeez. And what's up with Western playing in games that have to end in, like, weirdness? Like, these, like, Western is the most MAC-y team. Are they not?
I mean, you'd certainly make the case that the last couple of years, and especially this year, yes. As far as MAC-tion goes, they are most MAC-tion.
Oh, my goodness. All the MAC-tion. But before we get to the good MAC-tion, let's plow through some other MAC-tion. There's only one game in the East. Let's start with Buffalo. They dominated Akron. We were hoping to see a pulse out of Akron. Saw 7 points.
There was a blip on the reader, so there was something resembling a pulse at one point. But whatever we would have expected probably of a Buffalo and Akron game at the beginning of the year, that's kind of what we got today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the better talent went out there. Moving over to the West where things were more fun, let's go bottom up. NIU did not get that first one in the year. Hopefully they get a first one in the year next year, but that's a long time from now. Till then, Eastern beat them 41-33. Maybe the talent gap is as close as 7-point spread here, 8-point difference here. Is this going to be like the same outcome we see next year too, though? Like, did you see enough out of NIU's depth today to say, this is going to be better next year? Or did you look at Eastern's depth and say, no, I think I like what they've got going. I like what they've got going on.
Given the youth NIU has, there's still the potential for so much to change about the way they play ball. They could completely revamp the way they attack the game offensively. Maybe defensively they want to try something else out, because a lot of what they did defensively this year was plenty different than what they had a year ago. Even finding out today that Kyle Pugh, who's now been around for better part of a decade, is going to be back again next year. And at some point down the line, we'll probably have an episode that's detailed towards that. Like, who are some of the people who are coming back? Who are some people who are like, I've had my time to go, move on. This year took a lot out of us. So, but with a couple good defenders coming back and some guys who saw a lot of snaps on both sides of the ball, especially on defense, you saw stuff from NIU that led you to believe that, they actually put it together. Like, yeah, they should win games. They could be a 500 team, I think, with the type of talent they have. Whether they're coached up in a way that, makes things work. Chris Creighton has been out coaching teams in games they've been losing this year. Thomas Hammock was going to get out coached, and I don't really think there's any issue in saying that, because he's a guy who knows what this league's about and what he needs to do to win football games.
He's still learning it himself, but he can't keep trying to learn it himself. Especially at this pace, we do got to see some more pulse out of NIU. Kyle Pugh, like you said, he's coming back. Are there any more seniors that's going to be coming back next year though?
Oh, this is where we're like, there are a couple of linemen, I would say, that I could see coming back. There's a couple linemen who maybe might take a grad transfer, but there is so much to like figure out in terms of what spots are going to be available for guys. It hurts a lot of incoming freshmen and players who might have thought their time was going to be 2021, but instead seniors are back. So I can't imagine like Ross Bowers, for example, is going to want to be back. I would think he would want to move on, even if he had another year of or he would have another year because this is just the last year or whatever. The eligibility of it actually trips me up a little bit too. And so I have people in my head thinking, oh, well, they're done. And then I have to consciously tell myself, like, this year is just a void of of eligibility. So
check back later, I guess.
Yeah, seriously. So there are players, and most importantly, like linebackers and offensive linemen that could for NIU. As far as EMU goes, they're in a similar boat where so many of the players are set to come back and who already made an impact this year and should make an impact next year.
The one play I want to point out is that Kempton Shine took Dennis Robinson's chain, man. That was so good. Did you see that fumble?
I did not.
Oh, my goodness. So Dennis Robinson, the receiver for NIU, caught the ball, was trying to go out of bounds. Kempton Shine, cornerback, wrapped him up, stood him up. His foot did not totally go out of bounds. And he was rustling him while standing him up while, like, keeping his foot, in the turf. Meanwhile, ripping the ball out, and Mark Lee scooped it up, took it 61 yards to the house.
Sounds exactly like the type of thing your defensive back coach makes you run through in practice.
Freshman cornerback.
Gotta love it.
Central Toledo, like I said, it was going to be a fun series. Or it is usually a fun series. It usually is, somewhere in this 23, 24 score point range. It usually is like that, but it just wasn't fun. It was a lot of like Toledo's trying to go for the big game, and then they just get intercepted. And then Central's like, defensive unit was able to like get a lot of plays in the backfield, but offensively just couldn't get anything done. Mm-hmm. And so it just like kind of felt like a lot of weird stalemate-y stuff, but still able to put points on the board thanks to some decent kicking from Central.
Yeah, I mean, you still had a couple big plays, like Lou Nichols again coming through with some big plays. He's been a nice, I don't want to say revelation, but like you come into the year expecting Kobe Lewis to take the bulk of the carries, and Nichols has been the guy down the stretch who's been the guy for them. And as you've mentioned before, Ty Brock was, even being a transfer, he was basically QB3. So asking him to do much more than what he's done was not reasonable. So Central was kind of dealt a weird hand. They couldn't really use some of their better athletes. Between Pimpleton had to have the ball snapped to him to get the ball in his hands half the time. And
had a passing touchdown.
He did, which was pretty cool. But then guys like Ja'Cory Sullivan, who are a lot better than their stats would indicate this year, didn't get the touches they should have had. And defensively, a lot of guys racked up some stats for Central, but it didn't really – they did not look dominant except for games against the likes of maybe NIU, for example. Which
unfortunately, they don't play offense.
Right. And so, I mean, you 12 tackles for loss in a game like this. Troy Brown and Troy Hairston both look like animals out there. And they've still got the makings of a team that can be really good next year. They've just got some pieces they got to figure out.
Absolutely. And I want to say the same thing about Toledo. And I think Toledo, if they figure things out, just a little bit more, they can go a lot farther than Central. But that's because we always keep saying the same thing about Toledo, is that they have so much more talent than everyone else. But they're like in the middle of the rankings, just like everybody else. So, there's a lot of serious questions should be coming up around Toledo in this offseason, I should say. For Central, how are you kind of feeling about, like, what's your last word on Central heading into, the offseason essentially?
For Central, they've got to they cannot head into another season not sure who their quarterback is until the first week of the season. I know that's not necessarily entirely their fault. David Moore's situation's been pretty bizarre. Maybe he will be their quarterback next year. Maybe he won't. I don't know where the status is there. Maybe it's Daniel Richardson. They have to have certainty there, and they have to know that they're going to get the ball in the hands of their playmakers. So it can't just be we have to be super creative just to get the ball in the hands of our best players, because Pimpleton needed to be running down the field with the football through the air more. It's really not acceptable for him not to be doing that. So defensively, I think they're going to be great. I think they're going to be just fine.
The game that the only game we were looking forward to, and it was so worth it. One which action moment do we really want to start with? Do we want to start with the fact that there was a fourth quarter collapse? Or do you want to start with the fact that there was like a 90 lateral play that lasted too long? And now that I'm thinking about it, is Caleb Ellaby okay? He took a
I didn't hear anything, but I did see some tweets that were like, "Is Ellaby all right?" Like, just kind of
I don't know. He took a shot at the end, but Ball State, they wore the Charlie the Cardinal decal on the side of its helmet yet again, and the good luck charm paid off for them, I guess.
Good luck, baby. Chirp, chirp.
Where is your head at with this game, and what is your overall takeaway knowing that Ball State, you lived long enough to see Ball State win a MAC West championship?
I mean, I have at least seen it in my life, but for this to happen after a week one loss at Miami, you're like, it's okay, it's Miami, but it kind of gave you that thought of, okay, this defense isn't good enough to win the MAC West, and the week two comes around, they grab a win, and I'm like, I'm still really not impressed by the defense at all. They just give up too much big yardage, and even today, start of the game, Western was just running all over them. Ball State's running a 3-3-5 stack, so a three-man front and just getting manhandled at the point of attack. And Jackson Kincaid's running through truck-sized holes, and Ladarius Jefferson starts picking it up. And I'm like, how is Ball State going to stop them? Well,
yeah, I remember. I'm rewatching it right now on the broadcast. I think it's Marcus. It's like Marcus Pierce. I remember his last name. I'm so sorry. But one of the broadcasts, he even said it bluntly. It was like, this run defense is atrocious.
Yeah, the word pathetic was used at one point.
Yeah.
And I'm like, strong words. But they were stubborn about it. They were like, we're sticking to our front. Later in the game, when they had the stretch of like 4 consecutive drive stops in the fourth quarter, they were on a 4-man front. They finally went away from it. It's like, oh, my God, you're capable of making adjustments. And it shouldn't be an issue considering – the types of defensive adjustments and plays that Ball State's made in recent weeks. So, I mean, good on them for making the plays. I would say it was more the players who made the plays in the end, but
yeah.
So don't outthink it. Don't overthink it.
Yeah. And the minute there was like a little bit of a mood swing, like, oh my goodness, I said before, and I'm the one that came up with this, that energy is not produced. It's rather just transferred.
Right, you're the one.
All of the energy and all the hype went into Justin Hall's soul. He is.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he might be like, I didn't do a good enough job appreciating him over his 4 years, and like I've appreciated the hell out of him and other MAC guys. But who was the Kent State Hooper that won a MAC title, number 35?
Oh gosh,
is it Jimmy Hall? Do you remember Jimmy Hall for basketball?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the sports action-y feelings I had towards Jimmy Hall are kind of the same that I give towards Justin Hall.
Because they're so good, but you forget about them sometimes?
My action fandom is not tightly associated with Kent State or Ball State all too much. And it's easy for me to just like not really care about the programs, like easily not think twice about the programs when they're not doing so well. But when they're doing well and they're fun, like those two guys, like noticeably have put together like incredible 4-year runs.
Yeah.
They were so fun to watch and so undervalued and so underappreciated during their tenures at their respective sports that now that they're like at this moment, it's like, Yes. I hope you do it. I hope you win it. Like no one else. I won't say congratulations to Drew Plitt. I won't say congratulations to Caleb Ellaby or Mike New. I will say it only to Justin Hall. And I don't seriously mean that, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
The fourth quarter touchdown, he catches just a couple of yards beyond the line of scrimmage, and he didn't really like juke anybody out of their shoes or anything, but just the run itself was just magnificent. And I just find myself just going, oh, and then it before even scores, I'm like, oh, this is it. This is how they come back. They're absolutely full steam ahead. This is going to happen. Like, I didn't know if they're going to win, but I'm like, they're absolutely tying this game or getting it to a possession, like scoring a touchdown late. So at that point, it kind of already felt like they were going to win the game or find a way to make it down to the final second. So Justin Hall in this game went over Kevon Maben's career receptions mark today too. So Another shout out to him on that.
Yeah, so school leader in receptions, 10 catches 175 yards, 2 scores, and I think he ran it a few times too. Yeah, not too much, 17 yards there. But still huge game for him. I mean, at all, but like, good Lord, like that's how Ball State won, like having a guy to match and surpass D. Eskridge, who had 9 catches for 124 yards and 1 score.
Yeah. And it's like there were times today when, running the ball wise and getting the ball to, between Jalen Hall and Eskridge, you're like, okay, Western's getting the ball in the hands of their playmakers. They're gonna put up the points they need to win this game. And it felt that way for a long time, but well, for one, they didn't execute. What else did they screw up, Alex?
Some of the mistakes were just on play calling. Like, it's crunch time and you're calling for like an inside handoff on like second and long, and stuff like that. And like, they ran the ball how many times today? 51 times, and they were running on an average of 4.3 yards per play. 4.3 yards per play. That's not very much, And like you said, like Darius Jefferson did have a big first half, but then like once it started coming away, it's like, okay, we really have to like get Jalen Hall involved more. Jalen Hall only had 1 catch for 5 yards and it was a touchdown, but only had 1 catch. And that's a guy that he should be getting like 4 deep looks a game minimum. And having that would open up so much more, but that just was not the case. And they had like the missed field goal at the end too in the fourth quarter from Capps. He drilled the 50-yarder, which was really nice. And he made the 35 in the first quarter, but then he missed the 29. That's not, And like, I just think like from that point, like all the juice kind of got sucked out of Western side.
It's a tight game at the half. Ball State comes out of the locker room, doesn't score. Western immediately responds. So at that point, after Ball State gets possession back, turns it over, they've marched the ball, they turn it over. Things really aren't looking good for them. A lot of stuff could have gone Western's way and it could have gotten out of hand. But that's when Christian Albright gets his hands on a tip ball and it falls into the hands of Chris Aguimain, right? So that was obviously a huge play. And from that point, Western doesn't score again. Not only do they not score again, the drive summaries are 3-play and 3 and out. They go 70 yards on another drive and miss a Capps field goal, like you just mentioned. And then another 3 and out on their last drive. And not only was the play calling suspect, Ellaby missed some throws he really needed to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't want to harp on the kid too much because he, does do a very good job, especially as a sophomore. A little bit of accuracy issues, though. He does a very good job, and this is why he's on the field. He does a very good job of hitting the deep spots.
Sure.
And he, has a lot of strength behind it too. He can throw some serious lasers over the middle too. Like the one touchdown throw to Jalen Hall was just a serious, like, it was a fastball down the middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if he's like, shit, I can't throw deep, throw it over here. I don't want to call him lazy or anything like that, but it's those throws right there where like he has to just like rely on touch and not so much strength, where they're like, sometimes they're complete, but sometimes they kind of have to go up, or sometimes they have to like bend over to pick it up.
And I don't know how much of it's mechanics and how much of it's like just a lack of focus in certain moments, but it was way more like slants and out route type routes, just really simple like pitch and catch type routes where he's not like lengthening himself and just throwing the ball down the field. Those are the ones he struggled with today. So it hurt them in a lot of big spots, and it sucks for Western obviously because they had the best big explosive offense with the most balance in the conference, and they never scored fewer than 27 points in the game this year, right? So, and still found a way to lose their last 2 games of the year, which stinks that the things they did in so many games this year offensively that they couldn't get bailed out in the end, and obviously being really banged up defensively contributed to that too. The end. The end of the game, Alex. How do you I'm like, they're going backward. They're going backward. They're still going backward. And then one of the announcers goes, well, this might be a safety.
Yeah.
And I knew they threw the ball forward, and I'm kind of just like, oh, they didn't blow it dead, or they didn't throw a flag. And then things just start getting more and more wild. I'm like, oh, if they're not going to stop it, then like, what's to stop them from trying to, like, nobody would tackle them. And I'm like, I think they were afraid of getting like a late hit or something. because nobody would bring whoever had the ball down. Like, they kept wrapping him up, but not taking him down. But the whistle was never blown. And just living that, what was your mind going through during that play?
I thought it was just like egregious that they just didn't blow the whistle at all. Even at the point when like all the players like started running onto the field and like Caleb Ellaby's down, it's just like, okay, how do you guys just need to stop the play? Just need to stop it, like, and figure something else out from there, because that's how you get like a serious injury like that, or like that's how you get big commotions that weren't necessary. But even like the big play where you found yourself into all that stuff. What the heck, man? Like, my girlfriend was making fun of me because she heard me just being like, what the heck are you guys doing? What are you doing? Stop it. Stop it. You don't know what you're doing. You're stop. The game's over. Stop. What are you doing? And yeah. How many laterals were in there though? Like 90?
I mean, there had to have been like 20, right? It felt like so much happened in such a short amount of time. But when they all ran on so for responding to your point about the no whistle, I have to imagine there's a possibility that they've been taught in these end of game situations, do not blow the whistle, because you can't get, unless you're absolutely certain.
Yeah. Like when in doubt, just let them play it out. But
yeah, because I was in the same position mentally. I'm like, they have to blow it. Why haven't they blown the whistle yet? And then I watched the replay and realized that the Ball State kid that fell on the ball literally never had it in his hands. It just kept like fumbling around. So
I think I still get a little bit more hung up on like, how did they not see that it was a forward pass?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like 5 laterals ago.
That was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
That was one where every official should have thrown a flag, and I think there might have been one flag.
At least one person out of position.
There was at least one flag. I know that for sure. Obviously, they had to throw something, but I would have thought that you would have seen flags
in the end, there were 8.
Yeah, well, I don't remember seeing them, but maybe there were too many bodies on the field for me to see anything. So I think even the graphics guy on ESPN, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody who listens to this, but I don't even think the graphics guy on ESPN put up a flag marker. They were probably too just having their mind blown by this to actually like catch it.
You know what was the best part though? The best part was when we were all wondering the same thing, and we were all texting our friends like, did you just see that? Did you see that? And we're all interacting on Twitter. Did you see that? Did you see that? And then like the ref comes out and he's like, all right, I got it figured out. I figured it out.
Screen went red, and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. This is perfect. This is exactly what I should have expected to happen. So I didn't even hear the explanation of it, but I just saw the Twitter.
No one did. Nobody did. The only people that heard it were the ones at the stadium. And, wouldn't you know it, it's the one where, like, thousands of people weren't allowed to show up.
So Maction got a shot in the spotlight again this afternoon. And
by the way, speaking of which, I do think, like, the funniest thing was, and we didn't get enough interaction on Twitter, so, like, I'm very mad at everyone following us on Twitter that didn't like this post. But when Johannes Tyler was, like, celebrating to, like, nobody, and then I posted the tweet of, like, him doing that in, like, the empty the view seats.
Yeah.
Welcome to the view. Welcome to the view. Welcome to the shoe. Welcome to the shoe.
My entire mindset at the end of that game was fire off a bunch of tweets with dumb stuff and hope that people retweet it so we can get some followers. And then, like, we got, like, 2 followers. I'm like, oh, well, okay.
We do max stuff, so it does make sense that there would be a low attendance here.
Sad face. If you can follow Roger Sherman, you can follow us. Just kidding. Roger Sherman's tweets are better.
Caleb, really quickly, let's close things out by giving out some helmet stickers. That way we can congratulate people on their individual performances for the final time for most. We have all the names up on the screen. We don't have to go through them all. Caleb, who's a couple of people that you kind of want to point out, though?
Let's start with the de facto MAC championship, or the MAC West championship game. Chris Aguimang, obviously the interception, tackle for loss. And Christian Albright was a guy, I didn't even write his name down, but I'm going to do it just because he had the tip pass. And otherwise, it was Justin Hall with the big day, the 2 touchdowns, 175 receiving yards. Bryce Cosby, big day defensively. Same thing with Brandon Martin. We kind of sleep on Brandon Martin, who racks up almost 15 tackles every week. So props to him.
Jalen Thomas, too. He does the same thing, man. Like, those 2 guys, like, I mean, all the linebackers do an incredible amount of work, but, those guys, like, really, really, really get it done.
Western Michigan, though. Caleb Ellaby again, yeah?
Yeah, he was pretty good. Completed more passes, 273 yards. Not a ton rushing. A couple of scores, one to D. Eskridge, the other two, Jalen Hall. I talked about earlier in Eastern where Kempton Shine took your man's chain.
It's true.
And Mark Lee had the very long return. Trick Spates, he's been having a pretty good year. He had 11 tackles there. And Tanner Canoe, too, the walk-on turned scholarship player, had a touchdown.
Yeah.
Out of NIU, though, Harrison Whaley's a running back that's, kind of put things together all year. He didn't have a score today, but he played well, and he's a running back that, if Thomas Hammock's really going to make his mark there, like, it better be through Harrison Whaley, like, immediately next year. And I think he has the potential to do that. So
yeah.
So it was good to see him end the season on a good note for sure.
Buffalo, Akron. Let's keep that simple. First of all, Kevin Marks, big game, and I don't know why he didn't have even more of the carries. If you want to take a load off of Jarrett Patterson a little bit, otherwise, not a whole lot to talk about. Throwing the ball around. If you're Buffalo defensively, maybe somebody like George Wolo. How about Akron?
Not a lot going there. The only name I'm going to point out is Jonzel Norris because he had the team's only rushing touchdown, only offensive touchdown, really.
Yeah.
Central, Toledo.
Or Deshaun Jackson, sorry. 8 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss. And nobody really doing it wide receiver-wise. Deontay Johnson also with a big game as well. Bryant Kobeck, yada.
That's because Bryant Kobeck gets all the receptions still.
You're damn right he does. Then for Central, defensively, guys like Troy Brown, big day, 14 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, pass breakup. Troy Hairston, more good stuff. Marshall Meter, really good game. Outside of that, Deshaun McNary, him too. How about that? Otherwise, that's pretty much it for helmet stickers.
As we wrap up this week, though, going into the championship week, what are some parting thoughts that you want to give here? Do you want to give a thought to one of these teams that's not going to be playing anymore, or do you want to give something to Ball State?
So we'll have season overview obit types later. We'll have an award show at some point that you guys want to check out. So plenty of thoughts to share at the end of the year and through the off season. So make sure you're looking forward to that. But as for thoughts right now, the biggest thing that's sticking in my mind obviously is I don't think Ball State's like the team that's they've persevered through adversity, but damn if they weren't a resilient football team this year. And as much as it looked like maybe Western was going to be the team that could try to be that resilient team, Ball State was that resilient team. And maybe we're looking at a new era in the West if Ball State's competing for a MAC championship every year.
Did you really make that pun?
I did.